A win is a win is a win is a win. 4 OTs or none. The W over Akron is Indiana's second of the season, brings IU back to 500 as we welcome you to episode 5 of Under the Hood with IU football, presented by your Central Indiana Ford dealers, a proud sponsor of IU football. Reminder to visit your local Central Indiana Ford dealer today. Rhett Lewis back here with you following the win over Akron just about after midnight on Saturday night. And while the game might have been a little bit too close for comfort, it puts the Hoosiers right back where they need to be at 500, 2-2, going back into conference play and really hitting the road for the first time as they set to hit the East Coast and take on the Maryland Terrapins. And as we get set for that game and take a look back on what we saw against Akron, it's our great pleasure now to welcome in our distinguished guest here on this week's episode, Indiana defensive line coach Paul Randolph, now in his second year with the program. Coach, thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time here.
Hey, thank you for having me. And distinguished, I don't know, but I'll take that honor.
I know for sure. And so, Coach, look, let's get this thing started with just, what's kind of the mood and the vibe, of the team as you come back from a hard-fought game and now understanding you got to correct what went wrong on Saturday night, knowing that you can still do it with a win, which is always a great feeling, and then get yourself ready for another big week of preparation.
Well, the guys, naturally mindset-wise, down a little bit, hard-fought game. Akron played a great game, against us. Our guys fought. I think we played 90 plays or so. So it was a long, hard-fought game, going, multiple overtimes. But that's, Coach Allen talks about 60 minutes and beyond. So the guys understand every game could be that way. But I thought, by the end of the day yesterday, they were ready to put it to bed and move forward. And, a lot of things to learn from. Like you said, it's a really great day when you can play the way you play and then still come out with the win. And so make corrections and things like that.
Well, Coach, as you mentioned, defense was out on the field quite a bit, especially there, early in the second half and into late in the second half and into the overtimes, obviously. How does that affect your group in particular? I know you rotate that group pretty heavily, but how do they kind of hold up and trying to stay fresh for a game like that?
Well, the biggest thing is, knowing that, they all work really well during the week. They earn their reps on Saturday. And so, they all have confidence in each other that doesn't matter who's in the game, that they're all going to play their maximum effort and put in their absolute best. And so, but in that type of game, you got to rotate, which is what we do at D-line anyway. And so for them, just, it still ended up getting, the play count up a bit, but not crazy for the guys. But they know, all right, if I'm on the field, give them my best. Absolute, sideline to sideline, 7-second burst, and then Coach Randolph will get me. And the thing they laugh about, though, is they'll tap, and then I'll tap once or twice myself before I rotate them. But
that's right.
But they know for the most part that, hey, give me everything you got, and we've got guys that can come in and spell each other, which allows us to play fast and play fierce.
And Coach, look, when you have a quarterback like you guys faced on Saturday in DJ Irons, man, with some extreme mobility, what kind of challenge is that for the defensive line in particular to deal with a player like that?
Well, I tell you what, really is really tough because you want to rush full speed. You have to fight and be absolute wide open full speed to win your one-on-one rep. But then you also got to be controlled enough to fit in your rush lanes to try to keep him, bottled up. And, of course, he got out a few times on us, really talented young man that has really good wheels, runs really well, did a really good job of getting in and out. We pressed up on him some, impacted him. Our whole thing was trying to impact him. And we did some, we got a few interceptions. But we still let him out way too often. So, but trying to keep him bottled up, contained, and not let his legs hurt us, was our game plan going in. We've got to do a better job of that, when we face quarterbacks of that nature.
Kind of like this coming week against Talia Tagovailoa.
Exactly like this week.
Because we saw that last year with the amount of pressure that IU generated, defensively last year on Talia. He could just be so slippery that, maybe this ends up serving as, a nice piece of preparation for what's to come here this week then.
And me, I agree with you 100%. You kind of like games that are stacked like that. Where, a carryover from the week before. And I believe that this is, having irons. We chased him around the ball yard all day this past Saturday, and now leading into Tagovailoa. QB is, I think, is really going to be, the same style of play. He's really elusive, fast, explosive, has a cannon for an arm. And so for us, we really have to be on point of trying to keep him bottled up, contained, where his legs don't hurt us, because we know what his arm can do.
Yeah, no question. And we'll get much more on Maryland as we come through this week. But as we continue kind of looking back a little bit on Akron, you talked about impacting the quarterback and pressuring the quarterback and forcing him into maybe some decisions and some throws he didn't want to make. Well, go back to one of those in the first quarter. I mean, Philip Bleedy, who moves, across the center over the left guard, just beats him on that interior rush so much to where Irons feels him. And I think Philip got a hand on him too and ends up throwing that pass that Philip Dunham ends up intercepting. And that's how you draw it up, right?
That is. And then you add Philip's effort, but it is. And Philip did a really, really good job there. But, we talked the most important thing in the pass rush is everybody being on their landmark, on their post. And Philip did his job. The other 3-4 guys were on their post, which allowed Philip the time to get there. And I think that's the biggest thing when you're rushing against guys like Irons, Tag coming up this week. We've got to be on our post, everyone fit together, rush together. But Philip did. He got that big paw on him, knocked him down. I mean, pretty violently, which we like. But no, I think it's just, understanding that we do have to rush as a unit when you play against quarterbacks of these guys' caliber.
That big paw is right. I've shaken that hand a couple of times. I'm 6'2" over here, and my hand gets swallowed up pretty good by Philip. He uses those hands very well. What kind of value has he brought to you guys? I know somebody that you were familiar with, obviously, and he comes over from Texas Tech and seems to have made an immediate impact, Coach.
You know what? First and foremost, off the field, Philip has a great heart. He's a giver, not a taker. Is a great teammate. First and foremost, I think that's where he made his first impact. And of course, once he started practicing and working, he works his tail off. He practices the way he plays, and if you can accomplish that as a player, you're going to be a pretty good football player. And then naturally just trying to emulate, that type of attitude, work ethic. And then, of course, when it shows up on Saturday, it makes it a little bit easier for guys to see him and to know that, he is a really good football player, but a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was clear. In fact, I remember, in the times that I was able to watch fall practice, I remember writing in my notebook, Bleedy is going to be a leader with the way that he's on the sidelines, encouraging his teammates. And it was clear to see then. Obviously, it's paying some dividends now. We'll get back to some of the plays from the game here in a second. But since we were on the topic of and reinforcements coming in this offseason, Andre Carter has obviously been one of those. I think it's clear to see what he can bring to the table here. But I mean, going back into your careers, I know you coached some pretty dang good ones, and we'll get to one of them here in a second. But with Andre, his versatility up and down the defensive line, how would you describe the value that can bring, to you up there on the D line and to Coach Guerreri too, the way he wants to call the defense?
Well, to have a versatile player is really a major benefit. You don't have to sub packages to get him. And then for us, a guy like Andre that's got the speed, the power, the explosiveness, to be he's fast and explosive enough to be on the edge. He's big and strong enough to go down inside on run downs also if he wants to, any down in distance that you're defending. So I think, just to have that piece, and then the explosiveness, the disruptiveness that he plays with, disrupting the offenses and things of that nature. I think, for me, it's really exciting to have a guy like that. And I know Coach G, every week is really excited about putting together a game plan. Where do we use him? How do we use him? And to maximize his abilities. But Andre really, really does a heck of a job, of getting prepared and then playing at a high level on game day.
It certainly feels like he and Phillip can really kind of influence others with the way that they play, trying to elevate everybody's level of play around them. In fact, I was going back and watching, this game this morning, and I go back to I think it was play 19. It's an H tunnel screen. And for a player as explosive as Andre to get upfield, then see what's happening and that there's a screen developing to slow his roll. Yeah. And then he's able to kind of influence the way that the offensive linemen get out. And then Phillip ends up making the tackle from behind with the effort. I mean, that's it's got to make you smile when you see that.
Well, it does, because we talk about series of efforts. Series of efforts. It's never over till it's over, till the guy's on the ground. And Andre did. He really exploded off the ball. Thought he was getting ready to pass rush. The tackle throws him by, screen, react, and then retraced, set it down and retraced. And then Phillip, of course, was getting off on the inside, and the center showed him screen, and then he trailed and really did a heck of a job, diving, had to go airborne, dive and grab a foot to get a hold of that. And, one thing that we talk about on screens is, if the D-line don't get it, it's normally a big play. So guys have to know that, hey, when we retrace on screens, that it's our play to make. And, it's really good to see the guys, been working on it, see the guys take it to game day.
And Coach, I know you guys kind of utilize a variety of different alignments with each of the defensive line as you kind of go through a game, and without getting into, the scheme X's and O's of it. But, seeing a guy lined up in a nose alignment, right? Or like kind of that zero alignment right over the center. Right. How does that kind of change responsibilities for a player that, maybe is more inclined to be in that 1-2 or a shade type of alignment?
Well, for the most part, right, you've got two things. You've got to be able to get off. We call it knockback, right? You have to be able to get off, attack the center or the guy that you lined up, head up on, and then be able to maneuver your way off of it. Also, you got to be able to take on two every now and then, right? And we always talk, we talk about Mama Randolph loves a 2-for-1 sale, right? And so, and really she does it, but Coach Randolph does.
Yes, correct.
But the guys know that, sometimes we're going to have to take two. Sometimes we get one-on-ones because our backers are doing such a great job of pulling the double teams and the two off of us. And so they understand that, we have to do, what's called upon. If it's take two, if it's a line head up, line on a shade. The best thing about the guys is their versatility to be able to do that. They can line up, head up, and play sometimes. They can get on the shade and be extremely impactful both ways. So I think that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, definitely. And you're certainly giving the offensive lineman a lot to think about there, in the way that you're kind of aligning guys and changing that up, play to play, snap to snap, and series to series. So we talked a little bit about some of the newcomers, and Marcus Burr is certainly one of those guys too, who's played some good football for us this year. But I wanted to hit a little bit on the guys who are now spending their second season with you. Ladarius Cox, certainly one of them that's popped this season, playing some of his best ball. How would you kind of describe that group and their development now, year one to year two with you?
Well, when I talked to him, Ladarius Cox, PJ Lucas, Nick James, the guys that came in last year, Vincent Sneed as a freshman, those guys really are really starting to show because of, the second year of the fundamental techniques. Ladarius is playing his best ball right now. He really is. He's getting off, using his hands. He's really active, chasing the football. PJ Lucas has playing lower, more knockback, bigger and stronger and powerful. at the point of attack. And then, of course, they've always ran and chased the ball really hard. And, which playing with great effort. Then Nick James is a little bit of change-up pitch. He's not as big as they are. Right. He's explosive and quick. And so, but those guys that, as they just continue their development and their buy-in to fundamentals every day, getting better every day. And of course, it's showing up on game day, which is good for me because that means they'll keep doing it during the week.
Better believe it. Love seeing that. Love seeing their development. And I know you're playing a big role in that, and their buy-in plays a big role as well. And it's got to help when you can point back to some of the guys that you've coached in your career. And I know there's a lot of defensive line coaches that'll put some teach tape up there, and they'll show guys that are doing it at the highest level, guys like an Aaron Donald in the NFL. But you've got the unique, kind of perspective to say that, I saw that from the ground up. Right. How much does what, AD, not just the way that, the elite skill level he has, but the work ethic that he had to get to that point kind of come up in conversation with your guys, throughout any given year?
I think that's the most important part of it is, yes, you see all of his athleticism, his power, all that, but the way he practices, the way he prepares, yes. When it's not actually physical, but the mental preparation every week. And I think that's the biggest thing. Tyree Wilson, first round draft pick,
right.
It's the development of the mind and the mental part of the game that I think allows the guys to take their game to the next level. And of course, selling that, but then the effort, I still run to the ball a little bit, in practice, chase them. I tell them if I beat them, it's a triple loaf. If I beat them to the ball. So, but just the competitiveness each day in practice, and then the effort is the most important thing. Talent is great, but if you can couple that with phenomenal effort, you can be a great football player. And of course, that's my goal for them. That's their goal for themselves. That's my goal for each one of the guys that I recruit and coach is that, I want them to be a great player, but it takes a lot. It costs a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of effort to do that. And so, but the biggest thing is the effort.
Yep. No question. That's where it starts. That's where it all starts as you try to build an elite skill set and build an elite group up front. Coach, last one on the game here. Coach Allen mentioned it this morning that there was definitely some vocal, leadership from some older guys on the team on the sideline on Saturday, trying to rally everybody as the game, was kind of getting into its late stages. Kind of similarly, what's the conversation like within the defensive unit, within your group, understanding, hey, look, offense is having some trouble tonight. This game might be on us. And how do they kind of relish that responsibility to do their part enough to be able to come out with a win at all costs?
Well, we call ourselves the first line of defense. We're the trenchmen, and they understand that it starts with us up front. The physicality, the ability, to hopefully impact the game positively. And so, but each week we talk about it every day of the week. Tuesday's practice, Wednesday's practice, Thursday's preparation, even though the pads aren't on, the mindset, the mental part of it, it looks a certain way. And so, but that's the biggest part of it. And then game day, we understand that, we say as we go, we go. And so, and the guys understand that. I think they've bought into that we've got to play at a high level every week, to help us play extremely well defensively and as a team, and hopefully come out with the win.
No question. Last one here for you, Coach. And I've kind of had a chance to talk to some of your colleagues here on the staff about this. And I always find it interesting as we kind of get a chance to know you a little bit better. And for the folks at home to know you a little bit better, your how and your why. Why do you love coaching? Why did you want to get into this profession? And then how'd you find yourself here to this point where you're coaching for the Indiana Hoosiers here in 2023?
Well, I'll tell you what, of course, I didn't plan on coaching. I majored in engineering. And so, but while I was playing pro ball, I was playing in Canada under Mike Riley. Yeah. And he asked me one day if I ever thought about being a coach. And I said, no. He said, well, you ought to start thinking about it. Of course, what's crazy about it, that was my rookie year in camp. So I think he's cutting me. I'm like, are you cutting me? He's like, oh no, I'm not cutting you. You're gonna play a little football. And so, you fast forward about 2-3 years after that, I started a youth camp and back home just to give back, try to get kids from where I'm from back into football and keep growing it and their love for the game. And once you start doing that, it's like, you know what? I love this right here. And then, you go back and you think about, being raised by a single parent, coaches. I played football my whole life. So coaches have always had that impact on me as not just a coach, but a mentor, father figure, and that aspect of the game. And so for me, I see it as an opportunity to help another young man that might be me. That may be just like me, that needs a coach, needs a mentor, someone that's going to push them, drive them to be the best they could absolutely be, and to help them be successful on and off the field, not just football-wise, but academically, socially, to be a great citizen as well as a great football player and a great person. And so for me, that's really why I do it. I just love being able to give back. And for me also, I know how I look at coaches. I looked at coaches, when I was coming up. Just that look of appreciation from them to me, that yes, you're doing a great job. That right there, I know how far that can go with a young man. And so I hope that my players have that same aspirations. You know what? I want to please coach. Our coach loves me. He pours into me. He gives everything he's got to help me. You know what? I want to do it right for him too.
I love that, man. I love that mentality. And I love the way that you coach these guys up. So much fun watching you in your element, whether that's in practice and pregame, during the game. You give it all, and so do your guys, and we certainly appreciate it. We're very lucky to have you here at Indiana, Coach. We certainly thank you for giving us a few minutes here in a busy game week.
Thank you. LEO, go Hoosiers.
There it is, Coach Paul Randolph, here with us on episode 5 of Under the Hood with IU Football, presented by Central Indiana Ford Dealers, proud sponsor of IU Football. Reminder to visit your local Central Indiana Ford dealer today. We are back here with you on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Indiana Football Live. Join us on YouTube or on Twitter. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.